Good afternoon, folks. My name is Rich Jones. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer at Youturn Health. Today, I'm thrilled to have my good friend and colleague, Stephen Balzano, with me. Stephen, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Stephen, we got a lot of folks out there. You know what we do. You've been part of us and helped us out in a lot of different ways. A lot of people listening that are dealing with their own mental health, a lot of people in law enforcement, but a lot of people who just, are out there, general folks wanting to know more about mental health, stress, substance use. Your experience as an officer and your experience in the first responder world, if we can talk about that today, tell me, just introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about your background in that area, and then I'll jump in and ask you some questions and things like that.
Okay. Stephen Balzano. I was in law enforcement from 2010 till the end of 2016. I was deputy sheriff with Charleston County and also Greenville County. While I was employed with Charleston County Sheriff's Office, I was on patrol and also worked in the jail system. Then I went over to the law side and I did patrol, and I also went into forensics and crime scene.
Okay. So was that something that you always wanted to do? Like it's interesting, and you can even think about your friends and other people who work there. Why do you think most people become an officer, or why did you become, and why do you think most people become?
Well, I got into it late in life.
Okay.
So I was the old guy.
Okay. You were the old rookie.
I was the old rookie, but it was definitely something I really embraced. It's a very big family. The Blue family is a very big family. You mean like the officers? Wow. And even just with EMTs, firefighters, any kind of first responder, we're always one big family.
Yeah. That sounds almost like a little bit like a military kind of vibe.
It is a military structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be. Yeah.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that feeling of being like one big family, is that just like we're all in this together? These folks get me. These folks I'm one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We would go to barbecues together, and certain situations we could go talk to one another.
Okay.
Because obviously we do come across some pretty intense scenes sometimes.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've heard other people talk about this. It's different than just like people at the workplace hanging out.
Absolutely.
And it's probably because of the nature of your work and the intensity of the work.
Absolutely.
Like that's where you're saying like you really do get close to the people you're working with.
Absolutely. Because one call we could be going to a suicide, and the very next call we go into a collision.
Yeah.
And the next call, trying to help grandma down the stairs.
Yeah. And then you're done with your shift and you got to, go home and act normal, right?
Well, you try to.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So the topic at Youturn Health, or the focus at Youturn Health, is, stress, suicide, substance misuse. How can we help in those areas? So if you think about, we'll start with your experience with that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you were aware at the time whether it was stressful. I don't know if any officers were talking to you about it. Just 100% based on your experience. What's it like from a stress perspective, in an anxiety or mental health perspective?
Well, it's one of the things that's not really talked about a whole lot. It's kind of just held within. You just deal with it, move on to the next call, move on to the next day. And every day was different. One day you could be, just kind of hanging out, maybe do a call here and there. Next day it's just call to call.
Okay.
So obviously every day is a little bit different. Every scene's different.
Yeah.
When I went from patrol to crime scene,
okay,
completely different world. Because
in a good way or a bad way, or just a different way?
In a good way per se, because it allowed me to see the other side of law enforcement as well.
Okay.
When the first responders arrived on scene, they had the initial contact with the suspect if he was still there. Clearing the scene, make sure everything's safe for first responders, EMTs, firefighters to come in and help the wounded if there is one.
Okay.
And then so when I went in as a crime scene investigator, we had to obviously investigate the scene itself and document everything that we saw via audio, video, or photos, measurements, things of that sort.
So if you think about it, just in terms of everyday jobs and stuff like that, I don't think people really reflect on what it must be like to be an officer. But it's not like normal work. It's not like you report to work. I reported to work at the bank today.
Right.
I did my 9 hours. Some guy came in. He was a little grumpy because we didn't have the right lollipops. But every day is almost, somebody said it to me this way, it's almost like things that are like, that other people never will see their whole entire life.
Never. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if people really knew what was going on out there, they would probably never leave their house.
That's actually wild, man.
Yeah. And that's, if it's a good thing that people don't know, that means the first responders are doing their job.
Yeah.
So, they take care of the situation. People are just flabbergasted, when I tell them some stories that happened in Charleston,
Yeah.
I've been to scenes where people sliced up machetes,
Yeah.
shot in the head.
Things that people shouldn't have to see, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They just can't even fathom
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Do you remember when you were first exposed to any of those type of situations? What was it like? Or I guess maybe this is a better question. Did you get used to it over time, or talk me through that?
You don't really get used to it per se. You kind of just deal with it.
Yeah.
Because every scene's a little bit different, so you know what to expect.
Yeah.
One scene could be, maybe somebody hung themselves, and the next one could be somebody, was murdered in a heat of passion, or, and the next one could be, somebody that just died of natural causes.
Right.
So every scene's just a little bit different. So.
Everything is just a little different. Mm-hmm. Were there any certain types of situations that really pushed your buttons, or that were particularly
Probably the ones
difficult?
with kids, mostly, and the ones that are domestic violence, where it just got way out of hand. Obviously, because when we get on scene, it's obviously something bad's happened,
right?
And we had to document everything.
And you got to get in there, and you got to see some things. Again, I understand with the kids and the domestic violence stuff too, because now you're starting to get into like vulnerable people, right?
Yeah. And what the biggest thing that amazed me with that job is, it really didn't really amaze me, but just blew my mind, is how mean people can be sometimes, to others, and how they cross that line from being upset with something to really escalate to a horrible situation that they just can't get out of.
Yeah, this is something, if you're out there watching, if you're an officer yourself, or you're a civilian, or whatever the situation is, this is something we have to take a second and highlight. So the way that the human brain works from a psychological perspective, Stephen's 100% correct. We don't want to know the evil side of humanity. Mm-hmm. The reason is, we can't function if that's the case. Won't leave the house, or just literally can't concentrate on what you need to do because you're too scared. Mm-hmm. And so the human brain, like for most of us, we would never even think of that. We would never even think about what it's like to find a kid that got killed. We would never even think about it to watch a terrible domestic violence situation. And so the rest of us are all walking around like that, and everything, it's all like the Brady Bunch. Everything's kind of happy and stuff. And if you're a cop, I would imagine I would be like, what the hell, dude? Pete, there are a lot of different.
Yeah, I've resigned 3 years ago, and my wife can tell you, I still sit with my back against the wall. I'm always scanning in places where I go.
Well, let's camp out there for a minute, because I did want to ask you about that. Think about just your average daily shift. Let's pretend that you're just getting ready to go to work and go do that. Are you afraid on a daily basis?
I think fear is always a factor there, but you're trained to put that to the side and deal with the situation.
Yeah.
Like an active shooter.
Yeah.
Everybody's running away.
You're running toward.
Law enforcement is running toward to neutralize the situation.
Burning building. You're running toward.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Same scenario.
So it sounds like in your situation, as time went by, it started to. How would you describe it? Just starts to build up on you.
As far as what?
As far as like making a decision to leave and stuff like that.
Oh, you just do it. It's instantaneous. And with my military background, it made it a little bit easier for me to go into a situation.
Yeah.
But the unknown is always the scariest part, because you don't know where the suspect is or the deceased is. So you don't know really what you're walking into until you actually see it.
Until you're actually there.
Right.
That's interesting too, because you can't even really predict your shift.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a little bit like what we do, because things can get kind of unpredictable and wild. But for the most part, most of us know, I'm going to work. Here's what's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
But with cops, man, it's like you can't even get into this. Like, there is no routine shift.
No, absolutely not. They say that a traffic stop, it's a normal traffic stop can turn deadly moment, just in seconds.
Yeah.
One day you're dealing with a nice guy,
Yep.
and next thing you know, you got a gun in your face.
Yeah. And then you have all these situations. It's bad enough to have the ones that are obvious, and then you have these other ones.
Right.
How about your take on this? I know you're not currently an officer and stuff. It seems like it's getting harder and harder to be an officer, and there's another factor that is, like, officers were always seen as the good guys. Mm-hmm. Like, I still see officers as the good guys, but the world is kind of shifting in a way in certain areas of the country and stuff. I'm not trying to get political or anything.
Yeah.
We don't have to get political on it. It's just an observation. Mm-hmm. And I know you're not working in this environment, but do you have any take on that part of it?
Well, I think with the technology that we have today, the easy access to, amateurs doing videos and baiting people.
I've seen some of
the
these.
media, just really blowing up situations, trying to turn the tables on people. I think that's been the biggest factor that's turned the tables on some people's minds. I think as a majority,
it's making it hard for people to recruit officers.
It is. But I honestly feel that as a majority, I think the general public appreciates law enforcement.
Okay.
I know when my partner, Joe Mascova, he got killed in 2014, there was a huge, uplift within the community, showing support. So that really made us feel a lot better.
Yeah. Can we talk about that for a minute with Joe?
Yeah.
So tell me about that, man.
We had just gotten on shift, and he actually went to a normal call. Drunk guy, banging on doors and just being a nuisance. Joe was with the city of Charleston for many years, and he came over to the county. Super nice guy, good person, good cop. But when the perpetrator saw Joe, he ran up to his apartment. And when Joe and Mike, his partner at the time, knocked on the door, the guy cracked the door open about 3 inches, shot Joe with an AK-47.
Oh, my goodness.
Shot him in the gut all the way up.
Wow.
Shot Mike in the knee. And when Mike went to go grab Joe to pull him out, he didn't realize his knee was gone. And but he had passed away. Joe had
don't stop yourself from crying.
No,
dude.
it's okay.
It's all right, dude. I mean, it's like.
Yeah. But Joe actually, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mike had a training with him, but Joe's training shot back.
Okay. Yeah. So you do him like pretty well, right?
Oh, he was he was within my.
He was within your circle.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
You weren't with him that particular day. Like were you his? I thought you had said you were his partner. I'm wondering why you.
We were all on the same. We were on the same team.
Okay.
There we go. I was working North Charleston at the time. He was in West Ashley at the time in the Charleston area.
Oh, I see.
So when the call went out, obviously and it was raining that day. And
do you remember the call? Like whenever you heard, like.
Oh yeah, I was going about 140 something miles an hour.
So you're sitting in your car and like it comes over,
yeah.
Officer down.
Yeah, yeah. So it came across the radio, and of course every officer, didn't matter if it was City of Charleston, North Charleston, and they all conveyed on that property. But
do you remember the weather that day?
It was rainy. Yeah. And all I saw was the interstate and my route in my head, and I don't remember any cars, and I was going about 130, 140 miles an hour.
Wow. So it was rainy, and this was like 2014?
Yeah.
So 2014, which is what, 8 years ago, goodness.
Yeah.
And it was rainy. Do you remember the weather last Wednesday?
No. Mm-mm.
You know where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm doing a little exercise, and Steven and I know each other. He probably had me figured out there, but knows all the inside tricks. This idea of this event still sticking in your head, dude.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know, when 8 years ago, and you can still remember things like the weather.
Yeah, I know. I remember exactly where I was sitting when the call went out.
Where were you sitting?
In Ladson, actually.
Yeah.
At the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on there, guys, is it's a trauma response, and so your brain is recording all the details of everything that happened the day that you lost somebody that you loved, and it's all there, and it's so weird because I can't even remember the weather yesterday.
Yeah.
And this is why it's important to be talking about it. This is why it's important for us to have this series, because that's there, and you can't make it go away, man.
Yeah. And like I said, I resigned 3 years ago, and, what I call my blue family, we're still very tight. We're still, I don't miss the job itself, but I do miss my blue family. And we still talk and get together from time to time. Anytime an officer or deputy is killed in the line of duty, it always hits us hard.
Oh, I bet. I bet it's like
it's like losing a brother or sister.
What if you see it? What if it's somebody that you don't know at all, or something? Like, what if you see something on TV, for example?
Doesn't matter. It still hits home.
Yeah. So if you were to go home tonight, turn on the news, and it said like New York City officer.
We just lost one. I can't remember where it was, but it was in South Carolina.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter like the particulars of the circumstances on how you lose someone, but is somebody getting shot like worse than somebody dying in a car accident? Like, is there any difference in the weight?
No.
That may sound like a terrible question, but
I guess to a degree.
Yeah.
But
like, you got the anger toward the perp that did it for sure.
Well, you have anger, but we know evil's out there.
Yeah.
When you get into law enforcement, I think a lot of people, when they get into law enforcement, they don't realize how extreme it is.
Right.
And we've actually seen people come in and go through the whole academy, all the classes and all the training, and they're gone within a week.
Yeah.
The minute they have to put their hands on somebody, they start freaking out.
That's right. Yeah.
And the first time they get a gun drawn on them,
yeah,
they just panic and freeze, and that's like the worst you can do.
Because some people go through it and they might think, I want to be a cop, let me go to the academy. They get all the...
Then reality kicks in.
Yeah, then reality kicks in, right?
When you have to go into a house to get somebody out.
Yeah, it's not a TV show. This is real.
This is real world.
This is real world.
You don't know if he's around the corner waiting to slash you or punch you or shoot
right.
you.
Right. Yeah. So if we can go back to 2016 when that happened. 2014, sorry. So you remember like getting in a car and just, was anybody with you when you drove over to the house?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of officers already on scene. And when they shot back and killed the perp, we didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
So we had already set up on the apartment complex, and we sent in a robot to see if they can see in. But he had already shut the door, and then SWAT went in and found him deceased.
Okay.
The perp, yeah.
Then what happened from your end? What did you do, and how did the rest of the day go?
They took us off scene for a debrief.
Okay.
Charleston County was very good at allowing us to go to, get some help.
Okay.
For the scene and stuff like that.
Did you take advantage of that?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not, because everybody deals with it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
What
did they offer? Do you remember?
It was just some counseling, some debrief counseling, but they were very good about giving it to us and giving us time off.
Yeah.
They allowed us to take as much time as we needed, which was really cool. They didn't push us to come back to work whenever we were ready. I think one person didn't come back.
Yeah.
But I think most of us took about a week.
Okay.
Kind of.
So you still stayed in the business for like another 3 years, I guess, or maybe more than that.
Yeah. About 2.5 years, 3 years. Yeah.
What was it like working after that event?
I was a lot more aware how I approached things.
Yeah.
Because he had approached the door on the hinge side, and sometimes you can't avoid that.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I started approaching on the doorknob side. That way, they have to open the door all the way around, come around the door.
Yeah.
To shoot you, or they just at least you have a little bit more time.
Yeah.
That half a second makes a world of difference.
Right. Would you do that in any doorway, or is that just if you were working as a cop?
Now that I think about it, when I go to a house, I still approach it like I'm a cop.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Because you
looking
do some
around.
real estate stuff and basically.
Yeah. I still.
So if I were following you with a camera, you would be approaching it from.
Yeah, as most I could. I'm a lot more aware of who's around me, who's not around me, how close they are. Yeah. Things like that. I'm always scanning people.
And part of that is, guys, just to have an awareness on how profound this stuff is and how it does recondition your thinking.
It does, yeah.
And you have behaviors and habits that you have from your experience of being an officer that you probably will have the rest of your life, even though you don't technically need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, guys, I want to kind of set the scene, and as we finish out talking with Steven, so we have getting an officer that gets shot and killed, that's a huge, that's an incredible, stressful event.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
Whole nother level. You said they had people that you could debrief with. The good news about an event like that is that does tend to get more attention, in terms of getting some counselors on site,
Right.
do a critical incident stress management debrief. Can you talk a little bit more, though, about what I would label it as everyday stressors? Maybe not quite as intense, but aspects of the job that people just really don't understand how it adds up.
Right.
And I know, I've talked to healthcare providers, that exists in every industry. Was there anything like that when being a cop?
I mean, I think it's a silent, I wouldn't say rule, but a silent thing that goes on in first responders, especially with law enforcement, is, just deal with it. Go to the next call.
Yeah.
If you come across something, just suck it up and keep going.
Yeah.
If there's something really traumatic, then they would offer some kind of counseling. But it's one of those stigmas,
And they would offer to you if it was real bad.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, if it's something really traumatic but on the daily, everybody deals with stress differently. Everybody deals with the calls differently. It affects everybody a little bit differently based on their own personality and their life experience.
Yeah. And this is a difficult question to answer because you can't speak for other people. But did you and the other officers, did you have a ready place go to talk to people? Did they say, call this person?
Yeah.
And you were aware that there was a phone number?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever use it?
I did not. No.
Okay. Did you ever know anyone who did?
Yeah, a couple of guys.
Do you have any take on how much it got used? And
I think in that situation, I think it got used a good bit. Some just
around that shooting.
Around that shooting.
Yeah.
Some of them, they just kind of, got together themselves on our squad. Others went there, others didn't. It just depended on the individual.
Okay.
But I think a lot of times, it's just the normal everyday stressors. I think a lot of people turn to alcohol.
To just escape.
Just to kind of escape for a minute
Yep.
and just kind of clear the mind. I think that's a big issue in first responders. And I think a lot of times that people are perceived as the weak link.
Yeah.
Or damaged goods.
Wow.
At that point, and if they ask for help sometimes.
Yeah. Hold on a second. We're going to talk about that. That's so important, Stephen. So what Stephen said was this perception of perceiving yourself as the weak link. I'm the guy who's got to go get the help, right?
Well, and others how upper.
Yeah.
The upper staff sometimes they will perceive that.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I could see that absolutely operating inside of somebody.
Yeah.
Even though the company messages, go ahead and make the call, get yourself
Right.
help if you need it.
Right.
The frontline officers are kind of I'm not sure about that.
Right.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to one of these things. We know with officers, some of the biggest issues, if you just compare first responders to the general public, suicide is about 10, 12 times more likely.
Yeah.
Alcohol use disorder, it's the second or third highest profession.
Yeah. Domestics are higher.
Yeah, even in things like cops drink more than even the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
Where restaurant you kind of have to drink for your job.
Right.
So a lot of that type of behavior going on, and not a lot of people getting help for it.
No. They're scared they're going to be get labeled that guy or that gal, and they'll get put somewhere where they don't want to be. Or stop doing what they really do enjoy their job. They love it. And it's always a good thing to have a source that you can go to, that you can get the help that you need, that you need.
Yeah.
That's not directly related to the sheriff's office or the
right.
The
It's
police
safe.
department.
It's outside of the system.
Right.
Yeah. Did you have anyone like that? Were you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, and this is where, guys, this is where we're going with this. You've heard me talk a little bit before about, we have coaches that are specifically trained. Steve is actually one of our coaches, specifically trained to work with first responders. And it's this idea of lived experience, man. Been there, done that. And outside of the department. That's what I'm hearing you say. It's one thing to talk to your buddy who's sitting in the queue, who's sitting right next to you, but that you can only go so far with. I don't know where this is going to go. Right. If you talk to somebody outside of the department, especially if it's another cop, we're thinking that might be a way to de-stress.
Right. That's not connected.
Yeah.
With that department.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? But they can definitely relate. I can relate to a lot of the things, and not everything. I'm not able to relate 100% of it.
Yeah.
I never got into alcohol or anything like
Right.
that. But I can definitely relate to the stressful situations, how it has an effect on your body, your mind, your perception of life, of people.
You can relate to the feelings and the experience of being an officer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've had people, get shot and bleed out in front of me and take their last breath in front of me. You
Wow,
know,
man.
And
that's something that the rest of us will probably never see.
it.
I mean, you say that just to because that kind of encapsulates it, brother. It's like you say that in a way where it's like, yeah, it happened. But for me, when I hear you say it, I'm like, that's a terrifying thought.
Yeah. And it's one of the things. After that happened, the guy literally bled out in front of us. EMT, they came in there, pronounced him, and we went to lunch.
Yeah, like as if we would go after this.
Right.
Let's just go grab something to eat.
And it's just, and the point I'm making is, it's just one of the things you have to deal with and move on. You can't.
And I'm not saying. I mean, okay, so this is really, really important. So, and it's just an interesting thing to think about. That ability to compartmentalize and move forward is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
But I guess one of the questions I would have for you: do you think it could also become a bad thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about
it's
that.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You have to be able to deal with the situations as part of the job. Anybody that's done it for any amount of time, even at least a year, they realize that that's not all unicorns and rainbows.
That's right.
Not everybody's there to be your friend and sing Kumbaya.
That's right.
Most of the people that you deal with are good, but they just made a bad choice. But you also what we call frequent flyers. Those are people you deal with on the daily basis or the weekly basis. Oh, here's Johnny again doing this or do that. Or there's been times I've been writing a report and I see the guy I just put in jail walk by me and he's flipping me off. I'm still writing a report and he's walking in front of me. Those are aggravating times. And
that's a really good example of the stuff that's like not as high up as. Because the guy I work with talks about that. The guy I work with is a correction officer, and he talks about how the inmates talk to you and flip you off like that and stuff. And apparently, you're not allowed to beat them up.
And I've done the jail thing before I went into the law side. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
That's a stressful situation too. So if you're out there and you're a correction officer, like all of this applies to more than just officers, right? We're also talking ambulance drivers. We're talking paramedics. Yeah. We're talking corrections officers. I believe even folks who do like the work that we do.
100%.
I believe any of us that are on the front line with human suffering. Mm-hmm. Because you said it. We see things that the rest of the world doesn't even consider. It doesn't faze them at all. They don't think about it. I'll give you an example in our world. Overdose deaths. Mm-hmm. I get text messages and emails continuously all across the nation of the person telling me the story of their son or daughter overdosing and dying. Mm-hmm. What I realized is like other people aren't getting these.
Right.
Like this is, I had one the other night. I'll share this, man. I had, it was right before I went to bed. So this is like 2 nights ago. I'm getting ready to go to bed and I'm hitting up LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, there was an article posted. And the article was this person, a professional person, like a person like me working in the field, talking about his daughter, her 15-year journey, and all the things he did to try to help her. And it said stuff like, and I was a professional in the field, and I was pulling all the strings, and I even started a program for her. I felt like I was reading me writing about my daughter. Because of the professional stuff. Right. And then it ends with, despite all this, she lost her 15-year battle. We found her today dead of a fentanyl overdose. And now that could have popped up in anybody's feed or whatever, right? That popped up. Other people saw that. But the way that hit me, because of what I do professionally and what I've dealt with.
Connection to it,
That's weird. And that's tough to deal with. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning that night crying.
I believe it.
Because I didn't know what, and I had to actually sort it out, what was going on. Mm-hmm. That's the point, guys. This is where we're talking about. Everybody is not the same. We know that. We need individualized support and services. but we also got to acknowledge the unique challenges of these service industries, these first responders, man.
Self-care is so important. You got to get the help, whether it be in office or outside the office area.
How do you think, because you got through it, dude. You made it through. You kind of like, where did you get your help and how did you manage it?
I just kind of dealt with it within. I mean, I still think about them. I mean, I still break down sometimes when I talk about it, you know. Sometimes I cry a little more than the last time, but,
you had some healthy habits though, right? That kind of helped you, right? You weren't, like, for example, like, were you drawn to alcohol to deal with it?
Never.
That was probably helpful.
Yeah, I never turned to alcohol for anything like that.
So you didn't, that was kind of like, why do you think you didn't turn to alcohol?
I wasn't around that.
Wow.
I mean, in my 20s, of course, you go out and party. But my family was never really alcoholics, and they hardly ever drank at all.
Okay.
So I wasn't really around that. So I didn't really think that as an escape.
Super interesting. So your background and your own personal, like your personality and who you are, puts you in a position where you have what was called a protective factor. And guys, if you look at this graphic, and I'm going to put a graphic up right here that says risk and protective factors, you'll see under protective factors a thing like not drinking, not using alcohol on a regular basis. And that made you less vulnerable.
Right.
Whereas pretend you have somebody who uses alcohol as a coping skill in other ways and just parties, and then they have that happen.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh no.
Yeah. Alcohol's a big factor in the first responders world.
Huge.
Very big.
Like work hard, play hard, and also like work hard, and this will help you deal with it.
Well, coping, yeah. Coping, that's what a lot of times they use to cope.
Yeah.
But it's temporary fix.
Temporary fix, and it can become highly problematic.
Absolutely.
The thing that's helping you can come back and bite you in the butt.
Yeah, and usually does.
Yeah. Did you do anything else though that you think helped you with stress at the time? Were you an exercise? Did you exercise?
I had a motorcycle. I've always had a motorcycle. I would go ride my motorcycle.
Way to get away, kind of get away,
kind of clear my mind.
Yep.
Go hiking.
Get out in nature.
Yep, get out in nature. Things like that. Work out in the yard.
Yep.
I keep myself busy.
Yeah.
I would
keeping yourself busy. Being careful that because letting your mind wander a little too much or having a lot of time. Yeah.
It can be very dangerous to start thinking about it.
That kind of thing. And but even with all that and the positive coping skills that you have, guys, even with Steven's I'm a therapist, I can say this about him. Steven's very well adjusted.
Depends on who you ask.
Okay, it depends on who you ask. But even with that though, dude, you still remember all that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's still there. You can't wash it away.
Yeah, it'll always be there.
It'll always be there.
There's certain scenes I still think about to this day. It's like, why did that happen? Or, what did I miss? You know, or
man.
So, but you can't second guess it. You go in, you do the best job you can. You can't second guess yourself.
Yeah, and you shared with me, and guys, I'll share this about Steven. Like again, if you're out there, you're an officer looking for support, or maybe you're a sheriff looking for some support for your officers. This isn't Steven's full-time job. This is the kind of folks we have working with our first responders. He's doing this out of love and out of compassion, and it's a mission for him. And so this is where we think we can help. We have coaches who have been first responders who want to help.
That's right.
Get you on the phone, and we're going to be real straight with you guys. We're not going to psychoanalyze you. We are not going to go deep into every issue, but we are going to get on the phone with you and say, been there, done that. It can be okay, buddy.
Absolutely.
A voice of reason in the middle of this stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so glad you took the time to do this, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
I learned a little bit more about you too. Do you have any final thoughts, words, or pieces of wisdom for the folks out there?
Yeah. If you're having issues, you're having problems with some scenes you've been to, whether it be in your personal life or on the job, please get some help. Talk to somebody. We're a great organization. It's outside of your agency. Please reach out.
Yeah, hit the button, guys, for Coach. And what'll happen is when you hit that, you'll get our intake person, and she's going to connect you to a coach. And if you're a first responder, it's guys like Steven. So that's the other thing. Like you can see what you see is what you get. You know what I mean? Like We're going to sit down and talk to you about real life kind of practical things. And what I love about the idea of you being able to help, man, is you figured out a way to get through. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, how does a person deal with this? Well, first of all, there's no great way to deal with it, but you can literally talk through and say, here's some stuff I tried.
Right.
That kind of
Everybody
thing.
deals with it differently. Everybody deals with
Yep.
stress in a different way. Trying to do it the right way.
That's right.
Is better.
Well, and then the other point with this is I can sit here all day and theoretically try to figure it out, whereas you lived it.
Right.
And we think that's real
Every
important.
day. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us. Again, remember, please check out our tour guide video. If you go there, I'm going to tell you other video series to check out, other educational series to complete. Go through this. Take the time. You deserve it. You are doing important work. We want to help. Take the time to complete these courses. Take the time to make a phone call. If you make a phone call to us, you don't even have to sign up for anything. All right. We'll see you soon.